Seeing what you believe and believing what you see. This is an article that was published in the Forbes Magazine many years ago, like 2006. But what it says is interesting, and I love to read it for you. So listen if you want. There's a prejudice in modern society that we need to get over. It's the prejudice in favor of things that are concrete, tangible and three-dimensional. We feel that a rock is real because it is solid and heavy, and our senses can easily locate it in time and space. So what are we to make of a reality where seeing isn't believing? Snails have a very slow nervous system. It takes them several seconds to record each new visual impression. What this means is that if somebody walks by very quickly and drops a penny in front of a snail, the person will be invisible and the penny will seem to appear from nowhere. In reverse, if a snail is picked up and moved very quickly, it will believe it has teleported from one place into the other. Our senses play the same trick with reality at large. Our brains are too slow to register what every concrete object is winking in and out of existence at the quantum level thousands of times per second. Therefore we see solid objects where none in fact exist. The five senses imprison us in ways that are unconscious and invisible. Years ago, I read accounts of congenitally blind people who were given sight overnight thanks to innovative surgery. On being exposed to light for the first time, they were often completely disoriented. They wondered why people dragged black patches around with them wherever they went. Well, we call them shadows. If asked how big a cow was standing 100 yards away, they guessed 3 inches tall. Stairs were frightening two-dimensional ladders climbing straight up to the wall. Sometimes these bizarre perceptions were so disturbing that the newly sighted preferred to sit in the dark with their eyes closed. Aren't we doing much the same by clinging to the world of the five senses? Can we reinvent ourselves in light of non-sensory reality? Or are we to be prisoners of the five senses as much as our ancestors were in prehistory? Every time we repeat the words sunrise and sunset, we're indulging on a sensory deception. Here's another. Experiments have been done in which a group of subjects are put in front of a tape recorder. They are asked to write down what the voice on the tape says, and the machine is started. But the volume is so low that the voice is very difficult to decipher. Even so, every subject writes down a reasonable set of notes. The catch is that the machine was uttering nonsense. The ear and the brain cooperated to create meaning where none existed, a totally unreliable version of reality. A fact from neurology, little known to the general public, is that our brains create the five senses and therefore everything they tell us. There is literally no light or darkness, taste, touch or sound out there except what we have created in here. Imagine two magnets approaching each other with positive poles facing. Each magnet will feel that an invisible force is pushing them apart against their wills. And if the magnets are strong enough, this repulsive force will stop them from getting any closer. It will be as solid as a cement wall. In reverse, the human body isn't solid to neutrinos, X-rays and gamma radiation. And since every atom inside of us is more than 99.99999% empty space, The fact that your hand feels solid is an illusion as much as the wall that separates two repelling magnets. The empty space between the nucleus of an atom and the electrons orbiting around it is far larger, relatively, than the void between the Earth and the Sun. So the basic way we need to reinvent perception is to realize that the five senses are totally illusory. The good news being that we can transcend them. In fact, we do this every day. I'm not being mystical, although it's true that God has managed the feat of being invisible and worshipped at the same time. I'm thinking of something as basic as sight. We say that seeing is believing, and yet no one knows what seeing actually is. There's no light inside the visual cortex, which is responsible for sight. That area of the brain, like every other, is an oatmeal consistency, semi-solid mass that knows only perceptual darkness. There are no pictures in our brains, only a firestorm of chemical and electrical signals. We convert photons striking the retina into visible reality is totally unknown. And since the same holds true for the other four senses, the reality itself is up for grabs. Uncertainty reigns, and where there is uncertainty, there's a chance for freedom. As one famous Indian guru once told his followers, reality is like a net. If you want to escape it, find a hole and jump through. In truth, the net woven by the five senses has many holes in it. Technology jumps through them every day. Photons have already been teleported from one location in the lab to another without passing through the space in between. Anti-gravity looms as a possibility, along with practical and affordable superconductivity. Virtual space, called the zero-point field, may contain untold energy that could be harvested cheaper and with less hazard than nuclear energy. Nano-solar cells may harness solar energy with undreamed-of efficiency in our lifetime. All these possibilities completely defy the five senses. Yet I think the greatest revolution will occur when we solve the mystery of how the brain projects reality. It is hard to conceive of how the 3-pound organ that is primarily water and glucose has engendered the whole world. Creatures with different brains do not inhabit the same reality. Porpoises, for example, have massive auditory centers and may literally hear the tides, the Earth turning on its axis, and the position of the stars. We can't fathom their perception scheme. Nor do human beings share the same brain. So-called idiot savants exist who can name a prime number to 5 or 6 digits, or the day of the week that Christmas will fall on in the year 2387, and yet are unable to dress themselves or make change. One savant learned Mandarin Chinese along with several other fiendishly difficult languages despite having an IQ below 80, and in addition was found to be holding the textbook upside down. My prediction is that we will see ourselves more and more connected to the quantum field, not physically but through the mind. This mind field is invisible and universal. It encompasses all living things. It weaves fabric of nature. As our prejudice in favor of solid, concrete things fade away, certain fringe phenomena will become everyday. Healing without touch will be legitimized, since a human body can be altered by altering the field. Telepathy and clairvoyance will seem ordinary. Since time and distance are compressed to a single point in the field, intuition and epiphanies will be explained as subtle field interactions. The best outcome would be that wisdom will re-emerge as a vital human capacity, For there is no doubt that our spiritual forebears were deeply in touch with the same invisible reality that still surrounds us. We have shut out that reality in our stubborn, rigid insistence on believing our senses. But seeing with the eyes of the soul is possible. In the end, a new humanity is also possible once we escape the prison we have sentenced ourselves to for far too long. The so-called sixth sense isn't a separate sense at all, but a new opening for human evolution with unlimited possibilities. So this came from Forbes Magazine. I have no idea who wrote it, but I love it. So thank you for listening.